Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8.
You guys are definitely in for a treat today. A former UCA Collegiate National Champion for the 2007 UCF Golden Knights, a former UCA staff instructor, a record-holding powerlifter and bodybuilder, and now strength and conditioning coach and nutrition expert. I cannot wait to get to introduce you guys to Michael Pucci.
Oh man, Travis, that was a hell of an introduction. Definitely thank you for that. It is so good to catch up with you, and thank you for having me on your podcast. So let's see. Let's go back to when I first got started in cheerleading, going into 10th grade when I first moved down to Florida. Let's see, that was '01, way back in the day, 17 years. Wow. So let's see, a good buddy of mine, I was playing football at the time, doing weightlifting, and he was like, hey, how would you feel about, hanging out with a bunch of girls all day? And I was like, sounds good to me, let's do it. So then he surprises me and brings me to this cheer practice. And, it was definitely a little different from what I thought. There was, at the time in high school, we had about 9 or 10 guys on the team. So it was a little bit bigger than your typical, high school team, which was pretty exciting. A lot of the guys actually played football as well. But I instantly got intrigued by the sport once I started to find out how difficult it actually was. A lot of people think that these teams are just out there, saying chants and, doing a couple cartwheels. And I mean, this is some very difficult stuff that they're doing. And to get to the level from, high school, transitioning some into all-stars and then into the collegiate level, it's very similar to any top level sport like football or basketball. Like each level, there's such a huge transition to get to that next level, and not a lot of people can do it. So I did it through high school. I did it for a year at a community college, which was really when I got into partner stunning, and that kind of pulled me even more into the sport because it was so. I mean, like the first year, I didn't even have I had a toss chair the first year. that was it. And then I think it took me maybe by my senior year, I had a toss hand. So the learning curve was a lot different than it is nowadays. Nowadays, you could teach someone how to do a toss hand the first day, but it was a bit different. So it really took me a while to kind of really get into it. And then when I started in college, at the community college, that's when I started to learn all my skills, and I was starting to do all these cool tricks. And it really was fascinating how, it's not just about strength, but it's about technique. That plays a huge role in it. So then I did it for a year, and then the program got cut. And it was super depressing because, I just found this new sport, and I had taken it to the next level, and I had, really started to fall in love with it. And then, there was all this promise of going to compete and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden they're like, no, just kidding. The program's gone. So that was really depressing. So that was back in maybe '05. So then there was a handful of us, a good friend of mine, Hector and Jackie and Crystal and a bunch of us that used to cheer together. We went, we would still go and practice, keep all of our skills up. And then, so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be going to a university. I want to go somewhere that's not only a good my education, but I'd like to see if I could cheer there as well. So then that's when I found out about UCF, and I was like, wow, there's this school that has this amazing, possibility for education and cheer program, and it's not too far from home. So I did my application, and I was getting everything set for tryouts. I was keeping my skills up. I was super pumped. And then about a week before, tryouts came, I got a letter saying that I didn't get into the school. And then, so it was just another blow. I was like, wow, everything is a waste. I've worked hard to get to this point, and now I'm not even going to be able to get into the school, nonetheless cheer there. So I was talking to some people on the team, and the coach, and I was like, hey, I didn't get into the school. I'm not going to be coming to tryouts, and things like that. And they're like, yeah, why don't you just still come? It'll be a good experience. You get to meet a lot of the team members. You work on your skills. So I was like, okay, why not? It's only like an hour and a half drive from where I was living at the time. So I decided to go there, and I went through the tryouts. I learned a whole bunch of skills, and then we got to the last day, and they were the way that they do it. I don't know if they still do it now, but the way that they did it back in the day was they would take each group of people, like your skill and talent is based into like groups, and so they would take them, and they like the first group would be like, okay, you guys, you didn't make the team, and then the second group would be like, okay, you guys, made the team but no scholarship, and then it got down to the point where it was me and then 7 other guys that were on the team from last year. Pulled us into the room, and they were like, all right. We want to congratulate you guys on making the team. We have you on scholarship as well, and what we can do is kind of put you on what's called like academic probation, so that way we can get you into the school, and then as long as you keep up your grade point average and everything, then everything's going to be good. So at that point, I was ecstatic because I had gotten into the school, into the program, and made the cheer team. So that was kind of where my collegiate cheer level kind of went to its next stage. So then, as you know, the next year, my first year on the team, we were 2007 national champions, and that it's a feeling that you can't replicate, and it's something that you can never take away from someone who was on that team, because that night, that time, for those 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we were the best team in the nation. Like, it didn't matter what had happened on any other day. Like, when it was all on the line, like, we were the best. And I'll always remember waking up the next morning and be like, man, I'm a national champion. We were, the only team to get first place, besides another school, which will go unnamed, for the last 18 years.
I want to touch on a few big things that you talked about. Number one, it's amazing to me that some of the best cheer athletes, it's not an easy road, right? It's not like you just walk onto the floor and you walk into a gym and they're like, holy moly, there they are. And number two, when we talked about the skill progression, day one, year one, we're learning chairs. By by the end, we may have a toss hands. If you look back when you and I were active in the sport, on Florida staff, the UCF guys were the guys. So the stuff that you guys see nowadays, that you watch it and you're like, how is that even possible? This is what Mike and his guys, his teammates on UCF were doing at that time. That was the level that was the top of the top. And, I like how you smoothly brushed over the team that will remain unnamed. So let's talk about that for a second. We all know, and we all give so much respect to Kentucky, to Jomo, but let's also talk about an 07 UCF team that had a lot of attention that year, and you guys came in and you took gold, right? So tell us about UCA Nationals in 07. What was it like being backstage?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was a phenomenal experience, and I mean, the leadership on that team was amazing. I mean, you had 4 or 5 guys that were seniors that had been there for 4 years, just leading the way. And really, I was one of the younger guys on the team, with it being my first year. So just being able to look up to them and like seeing like what their skill level was definitely is another thing that kind of helped me grow. But man, that just being there in that atmosphere, it's amazing. It's hard to say like unless you've been there, but it's like just when you step out, like you can imagine it. You do a lot of visualization things, but like until you're actually on the floor and like you see the lights and you hear everyone in the audience and like you feel that adrenaline, like it's just amazing. And just like you're going through the routine, you've done it a million times, and there's certain spots. And like for us, I remember like when we were doing the cheer, that's like when you get like a little breather, you're just doing like a simple stun or something, like I think I had like a shoulder, a toss hands or a toss extension, holding one of the signs, and just you hear the crowd just going nuts, and they're almost yelling as loud as you are, if not louder. That just really pumps you up, and then like you're in the routine and you're going, there's like there's a couple of stunts, after your cheer, there's like a pyramid and then a couple more partner stunts, and then you just like you're in there and you see everything hit, and you're looking out of the corner of your eye and you just like you see all the stunts staying up and everything's coming down at the right time, and then like you finish and the crowd just explodes, and it's just like it's insane, and like you're looking around like everybody is did everything hit, because a lot of times you're in the zone, you don't even know, but like everyone's like everything stayed up, everything looked good, and it's just pandemonium at that time, because you're just like you're on a next level high, and you just killed it, and everyone is like screaming and yelling and cheering, and it's really just an emotional time, just even thinking about it, but it's definitely a time that I'll never forget.
You think back, I remember watching this routine, and I remember looking, and you look back at the routine that had typically, as we talk about Kentucky, Kentucky has always been just so pristine, clean, very sharp. Everything is methodical, and you have this almost like expectation of skill, and I mean that in with all respect to Kentucky and their programming, but you have this style of cheer.
You try not to watch teams and stuff like that before they go, just because you want to be in your zone and everything, but somehow, because we also were picked the last team to go that year, which is like the golden ticket, because like you want to be last, you want to know how everyone else is done, and even though we weren't paying attention or something, somehow or another, we had heard that team had bobbled a stunt, or like a stunt had come down or something, like a pyramid, and then so all of a sudden at that moment we were like, this is ours to take. Like if we go out and if we hit a solid routine, like there's no one else going to take this from us. So that's the mentality that we had, going onto the floor. Like we knew that we were going to go out and hit it, and then it was going to be ours.
I remember just looking back at that routine that you guys put on the floor and thinking it was so different than what we had seen in years before, right? We had more, just kind of visual, transitional. It was almost, and I can't think of another way to say it, but it was almost like a little bit of all-star-esque kind of touches on a traditional collegiate routine, right? So we had the cheer was very clean and pristine, very crowd-oriented, but then like you look at some of your transitions into stunts, like your transitions into pyramids. You guys did this wicked little like slingshot move into a 1-1-1 or a 2-1-1 or something like that. That I remember like I'd never seen anything like it, and it was
called the catapult. And it was like a shoulder stand, and then like we tipped over, and then like it really some great choreography by the coaches, and just learning new stunts that had never even been thought of before was definitely a fun time. a lot of trial and error there, but definitely a good time.
I'm gonna recommend to our listeners, because I know as you and I get older, some of the new athletes are not super familiar with some of our stuff, but any one of you that is listening, I'm sure it's out there. Get on YouTube, get on Google, and search 2007 UCF cheer, UCA Nationals, whatever you got to search, whatever keywords are working nowadays. But find this routine and just appreciate the things that you're watching. And some of you, I'll tell you, a lot of you are going to watch this video and go, well, yeah, we've seen stuff like that before. Remember, this is 11 years ago. This is not 11 days ago. This was before you just pulled your phone out and got a 4K video on your iPhone, okay? You actually had to bring a camera to these things. But, all right, so moving on. But I had to talk about that routine. It was absolutely incredible. So who was your biggest influence when it came to cheer? Like, who is the person you looked up to, the person that helped you as an athlete to grow? And give that person a shout-out, man. Let them know that they meant a lot to you.
Yeah, and this was someone who he was a senior that year, so I didn't get too much time with him, but luckily he ended up being a coach later on for that team. So it was Randy Brown. So he was on the team, and he was definitely not the biggest guy by any means, but man, he was one hell of a stunter, and he used every ounce of technique that you would ever need to do any stunt. And just like the way that he made stunts look effortless, that was always something that I strive to achieve. Just really trying to learn from him. I mean, it was like he had golden hands. Just like anything he threw up, like his just hands would be perfect on them. And so like even from day one, I was like, all right, I want to be like that. Like I want to make stunts look effortless. I want to have perfect hands every time. So I mean, I did what it had to take. I was, whenever we would have practices, I would be going to additional practices outside of that, and like just like stunting for like 3 or 4 hours in a row, just switching shirts out, just doing stunts over and over again, going through the progressions until each one was perfect and until it looked effortless. And then it was one thing, that I really prided myself on was my stunting ability, making it look effortless. People were like, well, dang, how do you do that? It's like, oh, there's a lot of technique, but I mean, it's a lot of practice, like getting in there, doing it over and over again, not being satisfied, with doing like a toss lib and having to press it up, like making sure that my partner and I's timing is perfect and hitting it at the top, like making it look effortless. That's something that I really prided on and was instilled into me, through watching Randy and learning from him.
I had a feeling when you started talking, I'm like, man, I think I know who he's talking about here, because I totally agree, man. I think Randy is a prime example of, when technique is flawless, you don't have to be the biggest or the baddest guy out there. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to bring you on and introduce you to our listeners is, as good as you were in cheer, I'd love to talk about how things are going outside of cheer and the things that were important to you as an athlete while you were in the sport that you have built on. Now, you touched on it a little earlier. I don't know if you remember this. I remember it like it was yesterday. You and I were working, it was a Panama City Beach camp, and I remember we had this conversation, and you had mentioned to me that bodybuilding was something that you were really excited about and that you were looking at getting into doing. And in my mind, I remember, we had this, I'm like, dude, this guy is huge. Like, how is it, like, how much bigger does he want to get? And so I remember a story you told me that while you were at UCF, there was in the weight room, there was the posters on the wall. It would have all of the max lifts, and it would have the athletes in the sport. And I remember, in what sport they did. And I remember you mentioning that you were at the top of a lot of these lists with cheerleader next to your name, and the football coach used you as motivation to get the football team to step it up a little bit. Tell us about, strength and conditioning, how important that was to you, how, your history with that, and then now that you've kind of evolved out of cheer and into your role as an expert in strength and conditioning and nutritional guidance, explain to us how that evolution has happened, and tell us about your new, or I should say not new, well, new to us, but your existing business, Team Unique Prep, and how that has evolved.
Okay, so really in high school, I got into weightlifting. I was lucky to have an excellent weightlifting coach, Coach Jones. Really taught me, number one thing is form and technique over weight all day. So I had a good base. So I steadily, worked my strength up through high school. And at one point, I was the strongest kid in Florida for my weight class. It was like the 183 weight class. So I went that, and I continued lifting through college, and then at cheer at UCF. I was up there, yeah. I think it was always between like me and Robbie. We always were like fighting back and forth for the top lifts, and it was all, we were both like 1 and 2 always. I get one lift, and then he'd like beat it 1 week, and then like I'd get it again, back like that. So, but yeah, so I mean the numbers, I'm not sure on the exact numbers. I know with squats it was like in the mid fives. Mid five, maybe like high fives. I know bench. I think bench was like 435 ish, and then clean was another one that we did, and I think that was right around like 315 ish. But I mean, definitely it plays a huge role, and I was lucky to not only have the strength, but to have learned how important the technique is as well, because a lot of times people were like, oh, you can just do this stunt or that stunt because you're strong. And it's like, no, if you watch me do the stunt, my technique is perfect. Like that's why I can do the stunt, because the timing is perfect and the technique is there, and the strength only helps like if it goes to like move or gets out of place or something like that. But I try to use the least amount of strength as I can, because if you're trying to muscle up stunts, you're gonna die quick. Or your energy's gonna be shot. So that was always huge. I was always big on technique, strength, and then after college, that's when I kind of got into bodybuilding, and I started competing. I got into powerlifting, and then so right now I'm a pro natural bodybuilder and an elite competitive powerlifter. And then I started my business, Unique Prep, in 2014, Team Unique Prep. And basically, so I'm the founder of Unique Prep, where I take successful people and I help them to be just as successful with their body image and how they feel about themselves as they are with their business. Whether it be, trying to help them get in better shape, because a lot of times if you have your body and your mind and your spirit in line, then that's going to help you be successful in whatever you're doing. So I kind of help people with that. So that's one of my main passions. My other, passion is I am still a vet tech. I work at an emergency clinic 3 nights a week, so I do that. Save little animal lives, and so I do that 3 nights a week, and then I'm able to do my business. The other kind of 4 or 5 days a week. And then so things are going well. I'm getting ready to compete again this year, getting my nutrition down and everything. But so one of the things that I really wish that I would have had a better grasp on when I was in college is the nutrition aspect. So many people underestimate how large of a role it is. Like, you have these top level athletes and they don't have any idea about the nutrition. And so they've basically gotten to the point where they're at based on their skill level. And not that saying that it's a bad thing, but I mean, I've even seen this with like NFL guys and Major League Baseball players. Like, they have no idea about their nutrition. Like, they're as good as they are, and they're not even eating what it should be to fuel their body properly, like through their workouts or through their training. And this is just amazing. Like think about, how good we could have been if we would have had just a better grasp on this whole nutrition aspect early on, like knowing how much to eat, knowing how much protein we needed to make sure that our muscles are recovering enough and we're gaining muscle through the workouts. Like, I think that would have played a huge role in only making us to become better. So that's one of the things that I really focused on once I graduated, is really learning a lot of information and learning about nutrition and the key role that it plays, along with training. And that's kind of where I'm now. I help people get to a better spot with whatever tools that they need.
I've actually been a client of Mike's and have referred people to Mike because of his expertise. But that and that's one of the biggest things reasons I wanted to bring you on is we've touched on nutrition through some of the blog posts that we've had, some of the things that some of the live videos that we've done. But the thing I want our listeners to understand is the importance of proper nutrition. And it's so much deeper than, as this simplistic mindset that we have of eat good, exercise, right? There's so much more to that. And one of the reasons why Pucci and I, why I have referred people to him, why I became, a client of his in the past, is that we both are firm believers in the science behind the nutrition that supports our activity. We have to look at things outside of just this old dogmatic mindset that we've had of go to the gym, eat what we think is right, sleep what we think is enough. We have too much data out there now to live in this archaic mindset when you have experts like Mike who literally dedicate their life to understanding the science behind what every single piece of food or drink you put in your body does. When it comes to performance, right? When it comes to getting on that floor and putting everything you have, if you're going to beat the best, why not utilize all the tools that are out there? This is not stuff that's not attainable. You have to just know what to look for, A, and B, who to look for to guide you there. And so our goal is to, introduce you to people like Mike, who is an expert in understanding the needs of the athlete and then being able to drive you towards those goals. What are some of your big numbers competitively in the powerlifting world? What are I know you have some records under your belt with regards to powerlifting.
So my best squat is 600 that was when I was a little bit heavier. That was in the 105 kilogram weight class. So it's like 105 pounds 205 pounds to 230. I think I was maybe at like 20-ish at the time. So 600 squat. My best bench was 424, and that's with a pause, which makes it like 10 times harder. And then my best deadlift was 589. So the deadlift is a movement that I've, kind of always struggled in a little bit just because I haven't done it for as long as I've done, the squat and the bench. I've been squatting and benching since high school, since like '01, and I didn't start doing deadlifts until 2012. So I'm just like 10 years behind in that lift. But I'm really excited though. So just like anytime you're trying to be an elite athlete, there's always going to be a fine line that you're riding. And that's like the line of, being great and being injured. And if you look at anyone who is an elite athlete, and you'll know that they ride that line constantly. And it's hard to tell people who aren't at that level, to explain to them, to help them understand like why you do what you do. Like you're not going to get to that next level unless you're pushing the boundary, pushing the limits. So I've had a few injuries here and there, but there's a lot of things that you can do, try to prevent injuries. And a lot of it comes back to like form and technique, so this can be related to when you're stunning. So like, if you're holding a stunt and, your spine is in an extended position and you're trying to hold it like that, like that's going to be a lot of pressure, on your intervertebral discs, versus if you have a nice neutral spine and you're braced in that position, you're going to be able to not only hold this stuff for a lot longer, but it's going to be a lot safer. So there's a lot of things that you can do to try to minimize injury. And that's also what I, try to enforce in my clients, is always having proper technique. And if you have the technique and you're forming good, then you're going to be able to progress, at a steady rate instead of being able to lift heavy with poor form. And that's only going to get you so far, and then you're going to get injured. But so that's kind of my big thing. So I got injured at the end of 2015, and then I spent 2016 rehabbing, and then I was able to get back into powerlifting this previous year, which I was super excited about. And then I actually I got a new Wilks PR, which is like a strength coefficient that they use, kind of based off of your weight and total. So now I'm going to diet down, stay injury free, and then compete again in powerlifting next year after this year is finished with bodybuilding.
We're going to have Mike on to discuss more in detail in nutrition. I just wanted to give you guys a really good introduction to his background and his expertise, but we're definitely going to have him on more often when it comes to, nutrition and things of that nature. And when it comes to nutrition, Mike's my go-to guy. So we're going to definitely have you back on if you can find the time in your busy schedule to talk about more specific things when it comes to athlete nutrition versus, sedentary lifestyle, also age-related stuff, because I know we have some listeners that are, as young as 8 to 10. We have some that are collegiate level. So I know that there's going to be a ton of questions that are going to be coming through. I'll probably just funnel them straight to you, or we can try to figure out a way to do another talk there. But before we let you go and let you get back to your life of saving puppies and lifting weights, we got to go through the lightning round. You're not going to get away from that. So question number 1, who was your childhood actress crush.
Oh man, that's gotta be J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez for sure. You know, she was like back when I was way back in the day, she was the star. Like everyone had a crush on her. Well, maybe it was just me, but everyone did.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. We talk about J-Lo posture a lot and trying to correct it, you know, because trying to get out of that bad posture. But hey, man, at least we got something positive.
Yeah.
We got something positive. Okay, how about question number 2? What was the worst haircut that you ever had?
Oh, no, this was kind of recently. So I went, I moved to Tampa, and I recently started getting like a high fade. You can't tell right now, but I need a haircut. So I went to this new guy, and it was this really old man. And I tried to show him a picture, and I was like, hey, you know, this is how I got it cut. I like it like this. And then so he finishes, and I was like, no, this isn't anything at all like the picture I showed you. And then it was just like, I mean, it was just really bad. Like if you can imagine a good fade, it was the opposite of that. Everything was out, and then he was like, well, I did everything. You know, if you don't like it, then you could just leave. And then like his buddy, I think who was the owner, he was like, no man, you know, you just gotta stay a little higher and do this. And then this was the angriest man cutting my hair. Like I was afraid that he was gonna slice my neck. He was hard. And I mean, it took him like another half hour to finish it off. But that was probably the worst one. And I was like, you know, I'm never going back there again. That's for sure.
Well, that's good. You know, lucky for us guys, if it gets that bad, you can always just bick it, right?
Yeah.
All right, and last one. What Disney cartoon character were you afraid of the most as a kid?
Probably Scar from The Lion King. That was
I was thinking the same thing.
The man, he let him go, and then you just see him falling, and he was bad, man. Back in the day, he was bad.
Long live the king.
Yeah.
I tell you, the worst part about that is when you become an adult and you realize how many other movies that Jeremy Irons is in. And you're just so scarred as a kid. You're like, I don't like this guy. I can never watch another movie that he's in. So happy to have had you on, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us. And I cannot wait to have you back on to get to share more of your knowledge with our listeners. And it was awesome to get to catch up with you. And we really appreciate you taking the time. Check out his company, Unique Prep. Also, make sure, go to YouTube and Google that UCF 2007 National Champion Routine. I promise you it's going to blow your mind. If you have any questions for Mike specifically or anything that you would like to know more specifically in regards to nutrition, feel free to message us. We'll definitely make sure to get you connected with Pucci. Pucci, thanks for joining us, man. Have a wonderful rest of your night.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having on here. It was great to catch up, and definitely let me know, man. I'm ready to do another one. I'm excited.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to check out thecheerdoc.com for more content. Also, if you found the material today valuable, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It's very much appreciated. Thanks for listening and have an incredible day.